Welcome to Laid Back Law with your favorite lawyers from around the interwebs, discussing the most pressing of topics every Friday at noon Eastern Time.
All right, we are here. It is a Friday. It is Laid Back Law, and it is a holiday, so it's going to be extra laid back as people drift in. We have Viva Frei, who is running late with chauffeuring duty. We have Nate the lawyer, who has the cable guys at the house. We have any number of crazy delays and whatever else. But from across the pond in Sweden, we have Nik Starow, or Starow. How do I say it? Starow? What is it?
Well, either is fine. Either is fine. You have the English pronunciation, which is Starow, and then you have the correct, that is Starow.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and we have Dani joining us. Awesome.
Hi, Don. Hi, Dani. I got here before you.
Well, you're Swedish. It's all right.
Well, he's 6 hours ahead of us. And what is it? Mountain time in Utah, Dani?
Yeah, it is. It's mountain time here in Utah. But it just so you know, it is Danny, like a boy. Like,
okay, I go. Sorry, I go.
Not Donnie. I'm not a Fani Willis. I'm a Fanny Willis. I'm a Danny.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. She's in the news this week too.
She is.
Oh.
I'm very, very excited to see that she is being kicked from that case, rightfully so. The fact that she was able to bring that case in the first place is shocking, and we're all happy to see her go.
Yeah, we are. Phil Holloway, who you guys might know, he follows the Fani beat, and somebody sent him, or he created a candle, and the candle is the odor of mendacity.
Oh,
I like that. That's great.
And I'm just kind of going, wonder what that actually would smell like.
Probably something from Goop, I'd imagine, right?
Yeah, I'm guessing. I am guessing.
Stale fart, I would assume. I don't know.
All right, so really quickly, while we're waiting for people to roll in, what are you guys doing for the holidays? What's Christmas like in Sweden?
Well, in the southern parts, it is rain and wind and some more rain. We had 2 days of snow about 2 weeks ago, but now it's back to raining. So yeah, it's a gloomy kind of. But I'm doing my best. Having my julegoat, my tomte, and.
Well, how many hours is it actually light? Isn't this the shortest day of the year today, or is it tomorrow?
Tonight is the shortest night of the year. So, okay. And then we go towards brighter times.
Okay.
So it becomes, we have dawn at around, down here south, 8:39. And then it sets around 4:35.
Ouch.
Yeah.
That is insane. And Dani, what do you have in store for the holidays? And you are about to have somebody else join the Christmas family for next year, right?
I am. So we're celebrating, obviously, having the baby. So I got the Christmas tree set up. That's about as much energy as I have to do life. But I am going to be hosting a Christmas Eve stream. I know that some people get really lonely on Christmas Eve. Last year, I read, what is it? The Up on a Rooftop. Hold on. Night Before Christmas. So I read that last year. And then this year, I'm going to be doing the Nativity. So if you guys are interested in joining, please feel free. Hopefully, the dark days of winter will give way to a beautiful future here in America. I'm more so concerned about the news that Kamala Harris is rushing back to DC, and it really makes me wonder if there's not some shenanigans that are afoot. So it's going to be an interesting winter break.
I'm in the community notes thing or whatever. Supposedly she was not rushing. It's because of the government shutdown. That it's kind of like they have to do all hands on deck or something, and it's not an emergency.
Sure.
Yeah, well, last thing I need, because it is December 20th, we don't need a 30-day president. Please don't give us a 30-day. Don't give us a 2-day president. I don't want to. Obviously, there's the gear issue. Like every hat, every T-shirt, everything else would be changed because 47 would be a 1-month thing, and then Trump would be 45 and 48, which would be crazy. But
I mean, not as crazy as Joe Biden taking over the White House for the past 4 years.
I mean, well, we had that with Edith Wilson and
Joe or Jill Biden.
So we had that with Edith. Interestingly, Edith Wilson, I went and looked this up. She was actually only in charge for about 2 years. And there was as much of a cover-up, certainly, going on with Woodrow Wilson. What's interesting about this case, and it's a little distinguished from FDR's case and Woodrow Wilson's case, is that in this case, this started with his campaign and followed all the way till today. And they are still denying that there's anything wrong with Joe Biden. When you have multiple sources coming out of the White House with this most recent Wall Street Journal article saying, no, he's incapacitated. The man is not there. And he hasn't been there for a long time. We script interviews with his chiefs. We have them literally reading from script saying that they met with Joe Biden when they didn't. So this is a significant cover up, and it's being run right now by his staff, not just Jill Biden. And what's really upsetting about this is the 25th has a prescription. It says that, before he sends off his letter to Congress, it's really the vice president who should be in charge of having the authority to make these decisions, not the president's wife.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but I don't know if we want, let me put it this way. Kamala Harris, in my opinion, was the last smart move that Joe Biden made because she was impeachment insurance, in my opinion. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm not going to say the other word, so I'll just say impeachment insurance, because it is one of those that if you don't like this guy, look at who's number 2. You want to stick with the guy on the top. And I really feel that way. And I don't know if Joe Biden is actually worse than Kamala Harris. That's a hard call.
Well, she is worse. We didn't vote for her. We don't know who she is. She's a non-entity. That's the problem, is that we voted, whether we like it or not, allegedly, for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. So those are elected officials. That's very, very different. And that's why the Constitution is written the way it is. Sorry to interrupt. Anyway, sorry. Welcome, Ron.
Thank you, Danny. Nick, have we met before?
Yeah, we have. No worries, it's age. Now,
Nick, when you get to be my age, Nick,
I'm trying to catch up.
There we go. So, Ron, what is the Coleman household doing? Obviously, for the holidays, Christmas is probably not foremost in your mind.
No, but since it happens this year that Christmas and Hanukkah start the same night, we're kind of on the same kind of schedule as you guys. What we always do is that there is a family Hanukkah party where my brother and his children and my kids, we all come to one of our houses. This year it's our turn, so Jane's running around. All good, thank you. It's always one of the nice highlights of the year. My wife puts too much energy into it, cooks too much, cooks too well. But these are good problems to have. Thank God.
Oh, for sure. So what's happening in Texas for Christmas, Kurt?
Not much is happening at the moment. Just having a kind of a sleepy Christmas, I suppose, here. Probably will wind up hanging out with Nate and his family for Christmas.
Really?
They're my neighbors.
That's so nice.
Yeah. It is awesome. That's awesome. And
Hey,
then Joe, what do you have going for the holidays?
I'm probably gonna have Ron Coleman over here for Hanukkah. So
Okay.
what
What a present that would be for Joe's family.
It would be. It would be.
Well, we've got Ron on here. Are you going to break the Tim Pool selling to Daily Wire news?
I can tell you certain things. None of the discussions about what Tim Pool is doing involve selling his company. The only discussions Tim is having, and he's having them with lots of people, is about advertising deals. There are different what would the word be? Sort of syndicates, partnerships. Some of the major media, different size media companies can offer different things. The idea is to be part of basically part of an advertising network. Tim is not giving up, not selling his company to anyone in particular. He's talking to lots of people, and he's trolling the world like crazy on this Daily Wire stuff. And he's very happy to do it because it brings out all the groypers, and that's just more engagement and more ways for Tim to make money.
Speaking of groypers, apparently the king groyper of them all, Nik Fuentes, was under actual threat for his life. And I point out, I don't agree with him in any way or anything else, but the idea of violence coming out of any conversations is despicable, wrong, horrific, and completely unacceptable. I just want to point that out. I'm not a fan of Nik. I'm not a fan of the groypers, but I absolutely wish nothing like that on anybody.
I'll tell you something, Eric. So Tim does a 2.5-hour stream, which I was there Wednesday night, and then he does his members only show.
Mm-hmm.
And on the members only show, we were going through the video of the day before when Nik was arrested for pushing some lunatic who came to his house uninvited, to confront him.
I think that I'm going to push back just a little bit, though. Looking at the video, I think Nik might have some problems because you don't answer the door with pepper spray into somebody's face. That's a little.
I think Nik has many problems. And I think that woman got what she deserved, but not necessarily the way the law sees it. I think he overreacted. I think the guy's a wreck, and why he's still in that apartment, since he has a whole army of supporters, I suppose that one of the officers of that army could put him up on a couch outside of the People's Republic of Illinois. I don't know, but even during that, I was saying, and I don't have the greatest relationship with Nik. We've never really actually had any direct conflict, but
why is that, Ron? Is there anything about you that Nik might have an issue with? I don't understand.
Well, he doesn't have any issues with me. He just has an issues with the group of people that I'm part of. Okay, which obviously is an issue with me. But all I mean to say is that watching that first video, it was hard not to generate. Unless you're really a hard-hearted person, it was hard not to feel a little bit of sympathy for Nik. And he's a put-upon guy. He's living. He made his bed. Now he has to lie in it. This is a world of his own creation. Don't get me wrong. This is not a case of misdirected sympathy. But to go from that to where someone's coming to his house with this lunatic gear that they had, and with a gun and a crossbow, that's the lunatic sign right there.
Yeah.
I mean, not that you can't do a lot of damage to somebody with a crossbow, but showing up in someone's house with a gun and a
no, I think it was two guns. It looked like there was a rifle, a pistol, a crossbow. I mean,
apparently this person did shoot other people.
Yes, apparently killed the individual's family, from what I understand. 3 people.
Oh, gosh.
So,
hey,
horrible.
Joe. Hey, Viva.
What's up? Hold on. I've lost everything now. The stream. Do we know? So the person who killed their allegedly, well, the person who killed 3 people has been identified as the name. I forget what it was now.
Yeah, I forgot the name.
Do we know?
Dead.
Is it confirmed that was the same person in front of Nik's door?
I thought so.
I thought it was.
No, I thought that they said. I mean, the reports are certainly connecting the two. I just wasn't sure if that was definitively confirmed that the guy they shot.
I thought I read the police statement, and apparently that was their representation.
Okay, that's well, that at least
That's
results,
pretty good, right?
Well, it results in ambiguity. And they didn't know each other. This guy killed his family, and then went to Nick's place.
That's what I understand. I don't know all the ins and outs and details. All I know is that somebody out there as a creator was threatened potentially, and obviously that's horrible, and I'm glad that they were not able to succeed.
Or she's a drone.
What?
Huh?
Drone. I mean, I'm just saying it's possible. A lot of people speculated about the whole glowing thing, in which case, like, he lost a lot of
that Nick is a glowy. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people speculate that Nick is a glowy.
Not me.
I speculate. I think it's very, very possible with his January 6th actions.
If he burnt a lot of his cred when he turned on Trump. Assuming he was, if you're going to go down this road, I don't know. I have no idea. But if he was, I'm just speculating. I'm throwing out some speculation here. If he was, in that case, a lot of his cred that he spent years building up was blown away when he turned against Trump during the final weeks leading up to the election. And he built a lot of animus, and this certainly builds a lot of Nick Fuentes' sympathy. And the way you would do that, and the way you could do that, is much like you have drones to sort of distract you and make you think all these things. I'm saying the same way drones are serving that purpose in New Jersey. A lot of people speculate that that's some sort of psyop by the feds. In that case, in theory, this attacker is something that he knew was coming to his door that night, and
if the individual
whole thing was arresting him was just a matter of like, oh, look, they're coming after him to try and, because the state is against Nick Fuentes, when in fact he's actually a plant.
Joe, I'm going to say
speculate.
That if this individual did kill 3 other people in his family, that's taking that to a whole new level that's completely nightmarish.
No, it's not. And if the idea is not that this is somehow not a setup, but rather I don't know. Assume it happened. The only question really now is it the same person who was at his front door that was killed later on, that killed 3 people earlier on? And then the question is, do they know each other or have a prior relationship? And is this something that's not random, or some delusional fan who got his address via doxing, but they had some sort of prior relationship? Which is why it sort of hinges on what people are able to piece together based on the identification of the now deceased alleged triple murderer.
Yeah, I don't know all the full details, and it's not like I follow Nick. It's like I don't care for him very much personally, and I don't wish ill on him. And it's just the whole thing's a terrible thing. Now, I want to segue, and it's a terrible place to segue, but I do want to talk about a creator that I did care very much for, and I feel
it's the worst segue.
I know it's the worst segue, but it's like,
what do you seriously?
What do you want me to do?
I mean,
Joe, there's never going to be.
Is there a good way to do it? Because you do have a nightmare, and then you have one of the best people we all knew.
Right.
And Jeff died. There's your segue.
There you go.
And that's what I am trying.
And much more important news. Yeah, our friend died.
Yes,
in people's deaths we would actually care about news.
Yeah.
And we do. Jeff Harrison, also known as Legal Vices, had a heart attack last Sunday and passed away, unfortunately. And I did want to spend a significant amount of time, talking about him. And I want to turn it over to other people. I like Jeff. I've talked to Jeff on the side. He's been on this show, multiple times, but I don't know Jeff as well as other people here on this panel, specifically Danny, Nick. I believe the 2 of you have spent a great deal of time with Jeff, especially Danny. You've met with him personally and know him through Utah and everything else. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Well, I was planning actually on talking about it on the 27th. To be honest, it's still kind of raw for me. I talked about it on my show. We had a really great stream that I hope, honored his memory. I just miss my friend. He was a fun guy. He was hilarious. I've never had anyone, I wrote it in a post, and every word I wrote was true. I've never met anyone who I feel so much kinship with. It's very rare to have lives that live so much in parallel. We're both from Utah. We both were raised Mormon. We both left the church. We both served missions in South Korea. We both went to the same law school, had the same professors. He actually went to class with my political opponent when I ran in 2022. And he studied admiralty law, and that's ended up being what he practiced, but he was interested in international arbitration, which was my interest. And it's just, he married a Korean, I married a Korean. It's just everything down the line, you know? And we both love whiskey. We both came out of our Mormonism loving whiskey and gravitating towards that. So it's just, there's so much that we had in common. And, you know, he was very kind and very good to me when I was going through health issues and traveled to Korea, obviously, to deal with those. He was very patient, and I really respect him for that. And I respect him for his jovialness and his ability to just kind of smile through hardship and say, well, F it, you know? So I'll miss that. I'll miss having someone that I can talk shop with, and I don't know. I'll just miss it. I'll miss him a lot.
Nick, do you have any?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's still kind of raw. You still expect somebody to just psyched, just kidding. But it's starting to sink in that I mean, the amount of hours before streams, after streams, we just sat and talked. Jeff was doing a lot of labor law over in Korea, and I, of course, did labor law over here, so we had that in common. Now, he represented companies, I represent workers, so we had interesting discussions in that regard. But at the whole, he was just a great friend. I mean, you could send him messages almost any time of the day, and you got a reply. Or he would send me, and then expect, hey, where are you? If I didn't answer in 2 hours. And he always had time.
Wow. I mean, did the guy ever sleep? It seems like he worked all day, every day, and then was streaming well into the night.
Yeah, I don't know. But he really respected his weekends. He really did.
Mm.
So he caught up during the weekends, well, until he didn't.
So this came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, ostensibly, I knew that he was having some heart problems. It's actually hilarious. It's not hilarious, but I like to pretend that, you know, I don't know the details of Jeff's death, but I hope that he died laughing super hard, hanging out with his friends after a heavy night of drinking. Or either that, or maybe he was getting a handy. I don't know. Okay, it's all alleged. I don't know. But what I know about Jeff is that he had a good time all the way to the end. If that's one thing I know about my friend, I know that he passed on doing what he loved and loving what he did. He was just he's a great guy. Like, he's just funny. He was funny as hell. And yeah, we lost a good one. We lost a really, really good one. He was entertaining beyond measure. He was petty as hell. He could be, at least. And I loved it. You know, it was something that I could relate to a lot. Speaking of petty as hell, I'm pretty sure that he'd be mildly annoyed that he hit 100,000 subs just now that he's dead. So this is a reminder to all of you guys to go sub to these lovely creators, myself included.
Oh, I thought you were going to remind us that if we need to jack up our subscribers,
Oh, wow, Tron.
I'm just saying, if you want to show us you love us, do it while we're alive, right? Because I'm
Yeah.
sure Jeff's having a good chuckle on the other side now, being like, "Come on, bitches! Like, what the hell?" You know. But obviously, he appreciates it. But I'm sure that he's probably slightly annoyed.
Danny,
Yeah,
I don't want to pry. I don't want to pry, but because I we heard it was a heart attack, and then I also read that he had come out, he had said something publicly, and there were some dark humor jokes in the weeks leading up to it. Does anybody know? Does anybody know what exactly led to the heart attack?
No, he was alone in a hotel room, which is why when I was doing a show, and I had a bunch of these folks up joining me on it, we were speculating that he said it was supposed to be a self-care weekend. And I imagine a self-care weekend includes massages and stuff like that. And I also speculated that, like, if in fact he had hired someone to come up to his hotel room and that person all of a sudden saw calamity ensue, presumably it's not like they would be calling the police. They probably would have packed their bags and gotten the hell out of Dodge. So, like, I think it's kind of nice.
Nelson Rockefeller?
I don't know. When I think about his death, I actually think about, like, that's probably better than dying, the way we're all, the official story goes that he was like alone in his hotel room. It's kind of like almost like a nicer way of thinking of his death, the way Danny was just speculating that, like,
this is so.
But here's the thing. I mean, him being in his hotel room isn't shocking either, because him going up to Seoul, the only times he went up there, to my knowledge, was to visit his friends. And there's incredible cardiologists, incredible surgeons and doctors down in Busan. So I don't know why he would go up to Seoul for treatment he could get down there. So my feeling is he probably went to go hang out with his friends, had a heavy night of drinking, had a great time, and went out laughing his ass off. Honestly, I mean that. Like, knowing Jeff, the last thing that I got from Jeff, our last correspondence was he sent me a meme about some Christmas song, and he was like laughing. He put in a laughing emoji, and that was hours before I found out that he had passed. Hours my time, like, I went to bed obviously, and he would have been awake. So
wow. Well, he seemed to touch, I mean, I think a lot of people, and behind the scenes too. I think everybody can attest that he, I don't know if I'd say peacemaker, but along that line. I mean, Jeff, I think there is some drama in the quote LawTube community, things going on, but I think that Jeff is like literally the one guy that I don't know of anybody who doesn't love him. I mean, he really, I feel, is universally liked, and he could talk to different factions or different, things like that, and kind of quietly be like, hey, hey, come on, let's just have some fun. And he was just such a fun individual. Kurt, do you have any thoughts on this? Or
I just always appreciated that he was very warm and always had a very positive disposition.
Your voice went out. I don't hear
that's
you.
weird. Huh.
it's Jeff.
We don't hear
Uncivil,
you.
we don't hear
Jeff,
you.
Jeff, knock it off. Knock it off. We get it. Don't give us boomer moments just because you had them all the time.
I just always appreciated him, and I appreciated his personality, and I appreciated his warmness and his ability to work with others, and he always seemed friendly and always had a positive spirit. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I agree with everybody. He probably was the most diplomatic person on LawTube. I don't know of, again, anybody that he's somebody that I think all of us would kind of want to be, in a way, or at least learn to act like, to be just warm and generous to all around, and remarkable guy. Now, okay, Joe, since you're the ruler and you determine what is a good or bad segue, let's segue into another subject here. And
What I'm
I'll
saying
go
is,
with.
I just want. I didn't really weigh in my thoughts. I'm just going to tell you this: he would far prefer us laughing about this situation than crying about it. That's part of who he was. He wouldn't. That's what he would want. He would. I didn't. When I was covering it, there was definitely a lot of sadness in this stuff, but there was also, we spent a great deal of time on my stream laughing about the idea that Nik Starow here is next. And he would have been dying laughing listening to it, and that's part of why he was so loved, is because he knew how to handle a situation, he knew how to treat others. He didn't care how popular you were, how fresh you were to YouTube. He treated everybody exactly the same. He was exactly the same person on camera and off. There was no difference. You turn a camera on him, there was no persona. He was just Jeff being Jeff, and that's what was awesome. And the laughter, and even in a dark situation, I mean, how many jokes did he talk about with the submersibles and stuff like that? Like, he was hilarious when he was talking about like that terrible tragedy, and that's something that the public really needs and will miss going forward, as much as we all will miss our friend Legal Vice.
If you're going to watch anything, it is his Maritime Mondays. Those should be evergreens. He made cannibalism fun again.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, he did
Exactly.
not. No, he
I
did
know,
not.
I know.
Are you giving it a chance, Danny? Are you really giving it a chance?
Yeah,
No.
not again. How about
I
you make
mean,
cannibalism
he
fun for the
he
first
brought you out
time?
of Mormonism. He taught you about whiskey. I mean, it's just the next step.
He did not teach me about whiskey, and he forced me to listen to a story about cannibalism one time. But if you guys are interested, you definitely should check out Maritime Monday, because it was a hoot.
All right, what's this about, David?
Here, well, this is whenever if I think about our own mortality, this is the clip that I always play in my head.
Feel. You're right, Marge. I'll do it. But if I die during the operation, will you do one thing for me?
Oh, anything, sweetheart.
Blow up the hospital.
Sorry.
I said I'd do it, so I guess I'll have to.
Every time I go for any medical intervention, Marion, do one thing for me. Blow up the hospital. Every time I go for any medical.
That is too funny. Okay.
It's terrible. 51 and out of the blue. It's not
51. I thought he was 55.
Yeah, I thought it was.
I think he's older than me.
He's 55.
Yeah. Okay.
There is no difference between 51 and 55 at that point. But yes,
I
Excuse me,
agree.
Dave.
I agree. After 35, we're all the same age.
It's
A
8%.
very big difference.
no, there isn't. And you know what? Between 80 and 85, no difference. But between 55 and 85, big difference. Danny, his dogs, are the dogs going to be? I mean,
Dogs are going to be okay. They're going to be together. His son's working on that, so that's fine. And then the only request I had for his son is he joined us on our stream the other night. It was a lot of fun, and I was like, if you have one thing to do that's good for your dad, is please delete his browsing history. Be a good son and delete all of his private messages. It's just not necessary. You don't need it. He didn't need it. Just be a good son. So he's going to do that. And I did warn him about the face blanket and many random.
I won't deprive historians of that. I'm sorry.
Pardon?
Private historians.
I don't
you
think
want
historians
to put
should
it
be
in the national
deprived.
archives?
No, but the whole thing is we have the ultimate protection. Our browsing history is just research so that we might know the opposition. That's my defense,
Indeed.
and I'm sticking to it.
Tell yourself that. Yes.
I was
definitely.
very intoxicated. I don't know what was being typed. Someone else had my phone.
Well, speaking of dirty
I was
browsing
hacked.
histories, dirty browsing histories might be the segue. Are we talking about Fani Willis getting spanked, or are we going to? Is it going to be a dark down
Nice.
stream the entire day?
That-
There you go.
There's a professional right there.
That's
okay?
right.
Eric,
Booyah.
take notes. Take notes. There's a professional.
Speaking of filthy, nasty search histories, we got knocking boots until 4 a.m.
Fani Willis, what a piece of work that woman was on every level.
Yes.
And the Court of Appeals was pissed. I mean, because they're talking about her. She was disqualified from prosecuting the case because of her own malfeasance in hiring and having relations with her assistant, Wade, that she got benefits from, or may not have, because she said that she paid for everything in cash that she got from her safe that had just been there forever.
She's definitely getting benefits.
She was a lying liar, man.
Her dad taught her well. Remember that.
But
Yeah.
10,000 cash under her pillow.
Well, hold on.
Daddy
You know,
taught me.
hold on. I think there's actually some truth to that because her dad ran with the Black Panthers. I just want to point out that her dad has a very interesting background too. So he might have liked to save cash in different areas. That is possibly true.
Now, I did a quick overhead calculation on how much money she had to have in her house, apartment, whatever, storage room, I don't care. And with all the travels, everything that she claimed she reimbursed, and all the unknowns, which we know is a lot, more than 12 different cottage visits, we're talking in excess of $30,000 in cash.
Oh yeah, and she took it from her election campaign. She admitted it on the stand. I was playing. You know, it's so. By the way, just so everybody knows here, I've been following Fani Willis's advice. Look at these. You see these guys? These are Canadian silver dollars. These are worth $8 each. They're still in the original Shivas
The IRS
Regal.
is coming for you, man. Keep those under your pillow.
So all I gotta do is I gotta borrow. When my grandmother passed, I screwed my siblings and took her Shivas Regal bag of. What we got in here? Oh, there's actually a good one here. Well, whatever. There's no good ones in there, but yeah, she had to have at least, I'd say easy 50,000 cash, and she admitted that she took it out of her campaign, which I think I'm looking back on this now. Both Scott McAfee, I'm wondering if Scott McAfee was in collusion with Fani Willis because both of them got reelected, whereas one or both of them might not have gotten reelected had Scott McAfee done what he needed to do to Fani Willis, become unpopular for it. He doesn't get reelected. Fani Willis gets disqualified in the judgment McAfee should have issued. She doesn't get reelected. As it is now, whatever happens to both of them, they got reelected for 4 years. And the court of
In
appeal
her
comes
case,
down
by a landslide.
Yeah, well, she might have even gotten a bigger landslide if she had gotten disqualified from the case. But
I'm going to push back. I'm going to push back on you, Viva,
on
on Scott McAfee being like complicit with Fani, because I'll tell you right now, I covered this March 15th when his decision came down, and I started just by screaming in rage at him and the reason I was screaming in rage at him was because he had all these different little fact nuggets that he found against Fani, like the notorious and what will live forever in history phrase odor mendacity, and to talking about all these different issues that he found with what she did wrong and the impropriety and the appearance of impropriety, and these were all findings of fact which ended up now became forever etched as part of the case, because once you have a finding of fact, it's almost impossible to overturn a finding of fact. And indeed, when I was reading this, I actually predicted, I said an appellate court has to swallow these findings of fact and come to the same conclusions of law. If he was really working in cahoots with her, it would have been very easy for him to turn a blind eye to those findings of fact, not mention anything about how unrealistic her testimony sounded, or how unrealistic and ridiculous Nathan Wade sounded. And he could have basically said, well, we had no reason to, my finding is that everything here seems like it was, it was okay. And if he had done that, the appellate court would have been trapped by those findings of fact and never could have removed her from the case. So him leaving those fact nuggets against Fani is what enabled yesterday's decision to come out the way it did, and he could have avoided that if he was really working in cahoots with her. That's
what it reminded me of? That his decision reminded me of the Comey letter.
The Comey letter, the other guy there about Joe Biden. Her letter.
Yeah, well, both of those. So, it's like, you're laying all this up, but hey, what are you going to do?
But that's
quite fair, because removing the prosecutor, particularly when they're a constitutional officer like they are in Georgia, it's a pretty big deal. And so I don't think that's quite fair to compare the two.
I think he backed out of it. I think he was too scared of the political ramifications.
I'm going to push back. I push back on Joe because I don't think he could have come to any different finding of fact, because we all saw the trial. Had the trial not been live streamed, he could have pussyfooted around some of those facts, but he simply couldn't lie to that degree.
The Court of Appeals didn't challenge or have any issue with the facts. They just had an issue with the remedy.
No, well, that's why.
Viva,
Which
have you not seen how the left can completely see the same things we see and say fiery yet mostly peaceful?
Yeah, but
he could have done exactly that. He could have basically seen what we all saw and come to completely different versions of gaslighting.
Not even
actually saw.
Yeah.
The media had turned against him.
We have another example from Fulton County with Judge Glanville's recusal. Where Judge Krause, who handled that recusal, by one line in her decision, she eradicated all possibilities for him to get more heat than he did. With one little line in that, I don't remember exactly what it was now from the top of my head, but in her decision, she said she didn't find the ex parte to be inherently wrong, and then she just left it. And then
you're talking about YSL.
Yeah.
Okay.
So within the Fulton County, you have different levels of corruption, and when it comes to Judge McAfee, I do believe he wanted to have it from the appeals court to overturn him. He put in all the finding of facts, and then more or less, I'm going to punt it forward to the appeals court and trust them, because now it can become precedent.
Yep. And the state didn't even issue a reply. I mean, they basically raised no defense on appeal. And I mean, we forget these people have to work together. At the end of the day, they're all colleagues. Ashley Merchant is the one who we should all be praising right now. She's the one who took this by the tail, chased it down, found the truth, and dug, despite being friends with everybody in this case. Yeah. She genuinely did work with all these people. It's not like she was super close to Fani Willis, but she was to her boo. So, I mean, these are all people that are all deeply connected, and they have to still go in and see each other in court tomorrow and the day after and the day after. The judge understands that. Everybody understands it. So, of course, they're going to pussyfoot around it. The appeals court is very much isolated from that need to sort of save one another's social graces and blow sunshine.
It's a huge embarrassment on the court below, because as the Court of Appeals noted, the standard here is abuse of discretion, which to be overturned on an abuse of discretion analysis is incredibly unusual. Because basically it boils down to no reasonable judge could have issued this, right? This isn't you have lots of cases and lots of situations where you can have a court do one thing and literally do the exact opposite thing, and they both be like within some legal band of acceptable decision making, because both decisions, even though they're opposite of each other, are within a legal threshold. Another example is with sentencing, because you have a huge statutory range, and the issue there is like abuse of discretion. Normally, it's like you can kind of pick any number within the range. So to be overturned on an abuse of discretion analysis is a huge deal to me as the trial court, because it's like you were off in some field somewhere. Far away from anything that's reasonable. If there's an Overton window of acceptable decisions, your decision is so unacceptable as to be outside the range of anything that any reasonable judge could do. And I was like, holy shit,
yeah, but
the Court of Appeals is pissed.
Kurt, you're right, except that's something that only legal practitioners would probably understand. Reading that ruling, they did not spank McAfee as hard as they could have, because they could have said it the way you just said it there, but they said it in their legalese. This is one of those rare cases.
I dissected legalese into it. I was interpreting legalese, and I'm like, this is a diss track.
Oh no!
We don't need rappers. We've got two MCs on the Court of Appeals that are throwing out huge disses. Damn.
And what was interesting is that I agree that they hate Fani. They're really embarrassed by what she did here, because what they basically did was they wrote 14 pages. The majority wrote a 15-page decision, out of which like 12 and a half, 13 pages was just quoting McAfee. And then they're like, and so we see this, and the conclusion is she's got to go, he's got to go, they both got to go. We're done with them, and they didn't basically give much of a legal analysis.
No, that was it.
This whole thing.
It was a one paragraph. It's at the end where it says the remedy crafted by the trial judge to prevent an ongoing appearance of impropriety did nothing to address the appearance. Oh, that's good. I mean, that's an insult and it's embarrassing. But then they go on to reaffirm his not dismissing the indictment.
Yeah,
that's a spanking, but not one. It could have been more vocal. They could have been more humiliating on the judge. But yeah, like they all have to work together, and they're not going to unnecessarily embarrass anybody when they could be polite in their humiliation.
Yeah,
right.
But now she's appealing it, so we will see what the
really.
Yeah.
Did she announce it? Because I hadn't heard that she announced it.
Ashley Merchant said she got notice of appeal.
Okay,
but Georgia Supreme Court isn't going to touch this. They don't want a piece of this bullshit.
Let her, please let her.
No, they're not going. I don't think they're going to. Because whether they love or hate Trump, people recognize the political power that he has right now, which is greater than the level of influence he has, which is stronger than arguably any human in the world today. And that's why, why wade into this mess? Pardon the
And I do believe that all of Georgia Supreme Court, except one, is from outside of Atlanta. So they don't have that connection either. So we'll see.
I just love that the findings of fact all cite to her own testimony. There's
well, I don't know if we want to.
Based on what she confessed here, based on what she disclosed here, based on what she said here, this is our ruling.
If we want to transition to another topic, we can move from one Supreme Court to another because another Supreme Court just took a case on a fairly expedited review. That would be the U.S. Supreme Court just took the TikTok case for a review on January 10th. So they are balling this decision. The TikTok ban is supposed to go into effect on January the 19th. The Congress of the United States passed a statute that said that they have to divest. TikTok says they can't do it. The Court of Appeals, which incidentally in this case was the trial court, it started its life at the Court of Appeals for the DC Circuit because Congress said that in the law. The Court of Appeals for DC Circuit said that this didn't violate First Amendment principles, and therefore the U.S. Supreme Court had to hear the case because it's a right of appeal, which is fairly unusual. This isn't a writ of certiorari, it's a right of appeal. So the U.S. Supreme Court is going to hear the oral arguments on January 10th and potentially come out with a decision before the 19th. So the Supreme Court is just moving all speed ahead on the TikTok thing.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the TikTok thing. When
I know lots about the TikTok thing.
Well, Kurt, what do you think is going to happen? Because I ultimately think that I don't think that the law is appropriate or should be maintained. But what do you think is going to happen at the end?
I think it's going to be upheld. I think the Supreme Court is going to uphold it for the same reasons, if not even more aggressive reasons, than the DC Court of Appeals. Yes, I think so.
You want to break down the background as to what the case is about for the audience and for those who are not.
I can break it down. Yeah. All right. So TikTok US is owned by ByteDance, and ByteDance is a Chinese company. And so the concern of the United States fundamentally boiled down to a national security concern. The Congress of the United States passed a law that said that TikTok US has to divest, has to sell. They can't be under the control of ByteDance. They have to be. And
naming them in particular, right? And the reason I'm asking that is because we're going to have to see how we get around a bill of attainder.
They did the bill of attainder analysis too in the Court of Appeals. They're like, it doesn't matter, it's fine.
Okay, yeah, but how's the Supreme Court going to affirm that when this law specifically targets a specific entity?
Well, for my money, I think it's even simpler than the Court of Appeals for the DC Circuit made it. For my money, it deals with border control because there is this fundamental idea in the Montenegro Convention that one of the fundamental powers of any nation state is the right to control what comes in its borders. And there's basically an absolute power to control what comes into your borders. So for me, it's even simpler than the Court of Appeals made it. TikTok is foreign. They want to import into the United States. The United States says no, end of analysis. So for me, it's much simpler.
Yep. We do it all the time with other weapons, and that is what TikTok is. It's absolutely a weapon, and it can be used against the American people.
That's the leap. You're kind of saying that as if that's just kind of a throwaway, but that's the leap that the court is going to be asked
Well,
to make.
but not just that, Ron. If it's a weapon, they already have legislation to deal with that weapon. Surveillance
Well,
laws.
we have new special
espionage
legislation
laws.
just for you, which
No,
we
but
can do
that-
but that's the thing though, because at the border, the power of the Congress is at its zenith. Like I've said this before, it's like if Congress actually passed a law that literally said like no one of religion X can come into the United States. Like they can't come visit, they can't come fly in. If you're religion X, you can't come here. You'd actually have to think about it, about whether or not that was legal or not. And there's a pretty decent argument for it is legal, because the First Amendment, for example, only protects people that are Americans, United States citizens, or are already here. If you're trying to come into the United States, you're not protected by the First Amendment. So can Congress pass a law that says if you're religion X, you can't come here? I think they probably can, because that's just how much power you have at the border.
Hold on. I have a lot of questions about your analysis here. I'm not saying your analysis.
I'm sure you do.
No,
it's an aggressive position.
It's a very aggressive position. And let's say it wasn't religion X. Let's say it was communism. Okay. Let's say it was communism, because it's not a religion.
I like that better.
So
it's religion.
So
well, it is religious for some.
Well, I picked religion because I was trying to make something very squarely.
The
First Amendment.
Okay, but
I was trying to make a very clear First Amendment conflict.
So let's say they said you cannot be a communist in this country. I mean, it's not just impacting ByteDance; it's impacting the creators who live here. It's the audience who lives here. So. And the creators who live here, so now you have a potential freedom of speech claim that I'm sure they're going to make. And then you have the audience here, which is freedom to hear, which is not quite as strong as freedom of speech, but it has also similar types of. I think there's a lot stronger protection, a lot of reasons to protect.
Is it speech or a product? Help me
It's
with
a
that.
product. This is a commodity. This is a product. Their speech isn't being, shut down. They can go to any other platform here in the United States or U.S. based platform, and a platform that does not specifically design itself to target American audiences in order to spread disinformation, hatred, and let's
face it, stupidity if it's TikTok.
This is a weapon.
But
this is a psychological weapon being used against the American people.
So you're telling me
profited here.
You're telling me that some creator who spent years building up a following on TikTok now has 3 million followers on TikTok and no real microphone anywhere else, that's not affecting their freedom of speech, that you're saying.
You mean like a sitting president on a program like Twitter?
Yeah, well, I'm just saying.
That was never adjudicated, though.
Yeah,
I know.
You don't have the right to an algorithm.
That's why I pointed it out.
Algorithm boost that TikTok is giving you. You only have
the
the right
argument
to what you want to say.
The argument that software or an app, which is software, functions as a weapon is not intuitively seamless.
Well, tell that to the ITAR restrictions, because we restrict the exportation of software all the time under ITAR.
Yeah, we do. That's
well,
true.
and what confuses me about the law, to be honest, Uncivil, is why ITAR was not, why there weren't rules put into place in the ITAR to specifically address TikTok and other such algorithms that do function as weapons. I mean, these are algorithms that could be developed by Russia. It could be developed by any other nation, any one of our adversaries. Yeah. Do we want them utilizing that without the United States consent in our own borders? Yeah, and not just utilizing it, we're profiting off of it. That's the part. That's the rub. This is a product that's being used and sold. It's a weapon that's being used and sold here in the United States. Now, these content creators are unknowingly benefiting from this weapon. You're talking about the guy who's making has 3 million followers on TikTok. Well, yeah, if it's shitty TikToks that are designed to sit there and dissolve the United States, disenfranchise other Americans, make Americans feel like they can't go out and do things. And China is very aware of that.
There is a couple elements of hypocrisy we have to acknowledge, though. When we have President-elect Trump using said platform, current President Biden using said platform that is so evil that they both are on it and campaigning. There is.
They shouldn't be using it. No one should be using TikTok. This is the argument I'm making. No one should be using TikTok. I've said this for a million times. As a matter of fact, Facebook needs to be greater regulation because it is a weapon of our adversaries, specifically designed to sow discord, distrust, societal discontent,
but Danny,
and to rot our country from the inside out.
But the
this
problem
is propaganda. We control propaganda in our country all the time. We do it in other countries, and other countries sanction us.
It's different when it's external versus internal. That's one of the things too. Like it is different if it's an American citizen saying it versus a foreign entity. So like someone asked me in my chat, like, well, what if this was a newspaper? And I said, is it a Chinese newspaper? Right? Are we trying to prevent the importation of a paper from China into the United States? I'm like, you can do that. Even if the exact same speech could be said by an American that was pro-communist or pro-Chinese, they could write literally the same things. The First Amendment protects us, not you, because you're not Americans. It's our protection.
See, that I agree with philosophically, and I drew the analogy when I was first analyzing this a year ago, and I was basically saying if 200 years ago a ship came in which was loaded up with communist propaganda, and they said we don't want to allow your ship to come in to dock here in our port and unload here, everyone would say that makes sense. That's totally fine. It feels a little different because obviously it's just coming directly into us via the interwebs. But I'm saying I can understand that point. That point makes a lot more sense to me. But then when you start bringing in the creators here, to me, that's where it becomes a little bit more of a more difficult thing.
Hold on.
Just because Danny's saying, I'm landing my plane here, just because Danny's saying, and perhaps correctly so, I'm not disputing the claim that this is designed to hurt the American psyche. I think that's probably true. Yeah. You have to you have to create philosophical principles that will apply across the board as to why it is that suddenly what seems like freedom of speech of these content creators is something we can obviate, and it doesn't seem like the exact same censorship as throwing people off of Twitter because you don't like the fact that they're MAGA. You have to be able to distinguish between those two.
To Danny and to Joe. Danny, first of all, that exact argument can be used to say that you shouldn't be able to see other people's Twitter posts on Twitter if they're coming from a foreign country.
Yeah. Yes.
B.
That's what I say. Yes, exactly what I say.
Yes.
I'd say that. You're right. Correct. What else you got?
Okay, stop. Well, if you're saying that that's okay, then it'll bring me to my second point. What about my First Amendment right to hear and read what I want to hear?
You do not, as Amy Coney Barrett said, as Amy Coney Barrett in the conservative Supreme Court said, that right to hear is essentially BS. It's extremely limited, and it's essentially BS. She literally wrote that.
Yeah, but first of all,
hold on.
Let me doesn't make it more less idiotic.
Well, the entire Supreme Court, they're all idiotic then. But what I'll say with this particular point is that with the reason why you can't, the right to hear isn't something is because it extends standing. So you're essentially allowing somebody to have third-party standing to help someone else's rights. My right to speak, but then if I can't do it, you then can do it on a third party here. On a third party, I have the right to listen. So that's been rejected by the Supreme Court. But I do want to untangle a couple of the things that we've been talking about. One, to Kurt's point, there's a case Yik-Wo, and I think Yik-Wo is the thing that really defines what we're talking about. This is the difference between in country and out country. For those of you who don't know, Yik-Wo was a Supreme Court case where you had, I don't want to call them illegal aliens, but you had essentially
illegal aliens
who weren't citizens.
Because they were legal aliens.
That is a legal term, is it not?
Right. Yeah,
isn't that the legal term?
They're illegal.
Yes.
But anyway, yeah, so they're illegal aliens. But anyway,
he has habits before we got red pilled.
Or even like legal aliens, because the Congress or the United States has on occasion forbidden entry from people who want to come into the United States to speak because their speech is subversive, even if we would allow that speech inside the United States. But because they're foreign, we've denied entry visas to people.
But let me just speak on the piece about the legal, the in country versus out country. So in Yik-Wo, if you're in the country, even if you're an illegal alien, whatnot, the Constitution protects you. Just like anyone else. So, for instance, in Yik-Wo, it had to do with them passing a law that says, if you're it's obviously part of the tiers of scrutiny, intermediate scrutiny. What we're talking about here, though, when you have this foreign company, when you have a foreign company trying to come in board, it's what Kurt's saying. That's when the government can regulate it, and it has before. And something that a lot of people may not realize is that during COVID, remember when the government said anyone who is from China or anybody from this nationality can't come into the United States because of their fear for this virus. So it's possible you can do that just even based off nationality. So that's I think where you're getting at.
We're talking about coming into the country and importing things, and this goes back to Kurt's example of unloading the ship. The software is here. It's here. The software is here. I own it. It's on my phone. Oh, I don't really, we don't really own anything anymore. But let's put that aside. Okay. In fact, for all let's say TikTok were to renounce ownership over the code of its app. So now
that would work.
It's on my phone. It's my program. I want to use it to get access to some of the stupidest content.
Well, hold on.
I'm pretty sure the terms of service do not give you ownership over the code.
No, but those
Ron,
problems
also,
can be solved.
There's a big problem.
I can make a client, and TikTok can authorize a third-party clients that would take. Of course, then they wouldn't be able to spy on you, and they don't want. And they
right. That's the entire thing, though. But there's a lot of ways. There's a lot of ways around this that would satisfy the law. But that's kind of the thing. The ultimate thing at the end of the day for the Court of Appeals was the algorithm itself was still under the control of ByteDance. So the algorithm was Chinese, and that's sort of the ultimate problem. And when you have control of the algorithm, it means I can show you what I want you to see, and I can prevent you from seeing what I don't want you to see. And so it allows me to influence you as a foreign adversary. That's a real problem.
Well, there's more to it as well, because I mean, the data, where the data is stored, you've got. I mean, everybody's thinking of this.
They said that wasn't enough because
it's not enough. We're giving over the data voluntarily. These are U.S. citizens who are voluntarily handing over
I
their
get it,
data
but what I'm saying is, don't limit TikTok into an app on the phone. Is what I'm trying to say. It's much bigger. It's an entire infrastructure of data. Cloud, all kinds of stuff.
TikTok proposed something called Project Texas, wherein they gave all the data to Oracle, which happens to be based in Texas, and they're like, "Well, that will keep all the data in the United States." And the Court of Appeals took notice of that. It's like, well, it's not good enough, because even if all the data is in the United States, the algorithm itself is still foreign, and they have the ability to control or to promote what they have the ability to promote what they want you to see, and they have the ability to unpromote what they don't want you to see. So even if the data itself is American, because the algorithm is Chinese, the fact that you've sequestered the data is not a sufficient remedy.
Can I suggest, guys, let's face it, the level of analogy that we're dealing with on so many levels here makes this a case of first impression.
Yes.
And for anyone to say, here's what the law is. Here's what it's going to be.
That's what I'm here for, Ron.
Exactly. I was about to say,
that's what we're doing.
That is the entire concept of LawTube, and I wouldn't, God forbid, want to undermine that. The point is, it's really novel. It's really cool. It's great for seminars, and at some point, yes, very soon, possibly, the Supreme Court. In fact, I would like to write an amicus brief on this. If anyone knows an organization that wants the brilliant First Amendment internet lawyer Ron Coleman to write an amicus brief for them, find me, and I'll probably do it for you. Certainly, if you're female, guaranteed. I just noticed that Joe, I just do more favors for females.
Let me. I want to.
It's
not getting better, Ron.
Can I just jump in here real quick? I just wanted to finish my thought really quickly, which is it goes to the level of enforceability. So enforcing our own laws and our ability to enforce the laws, and also protect our own companies. If you can't do those two things, then you don't have law applicable to you. We can absolutely ban those people. We can absolutely kick out those companies because we cannot protect them under our laws. We cannot enforce the law against them. If at any point the CCP decides we're going to utilize this weapon to do XYZ thing, I don't know, send drones to spy on American citizens and see what their daily activities are so that we can further disrupt their daily lives and destroy their democracy, well, then we'll go ahead and do that. And there's no remedy for the United States government apart from war. And this is where this falls clearly under our legal rights to ban them.
I'm gonna say one thing. On this issue, I'm too emotionally invested to issue a proper prediction because I'm convinced I'm right, and Danny, that you're not right. Bring up that thing, Eric, that I sent you, because it's not, we're talking about the law, whether or not it's a bill of attainder, targeting a company, yada yada. Scroll up just so we can see the beginning of that section there. This is the part that drives me nuts. Is like, void for vagueness, controlled by a foreign adversary. The term controlled by a foreign adversary for the purposes of this law means, with respect to a covered company or other entity, that such company or other entity is, go to C. Scroll down to C on page 8, Eric. The controlled entity, a person subject to the direction or control of a foreign person or entity described in subparagraph A or B, that being Russia, China, whatever. So now all they have to do is allege that Trump is a Russian asset and take down Truth Social. I mean, it's so no, they wouldn't do that. I mean, that would be crazy, right? No,
I think the logic may be a little crazy. But what I'm saying,
back it up. What's wrong with the logic, Nate? What's wrong with the logic?
He's a U.S. citizen. The same laws don't apply to Trump that apply to China.
Read that provision. It doesn't talk about actual corporate control. It talks about subject to the direction of one of the entities.
Yes. So what they're trying to say in their legalese language, it seems like, is it's about investment, right? If I own 51% of the company, then you have to do what I say. That's what I'm saying. And if Trump sells 51% of Truth Social to a foreign adversary or their investment, where they can now direct him to do whatever they want, then he would be subject to that particular provision. That's how I'm reading it.
Right.
That's good. That's not what it says. A person.
No, but that's how
to the direction because if it meant control, Nate, it would have just said control. It
subject
says
to the direction.
Subject to the direction or control of a foreign person or entity described in
direction
and
from control.
But even direction and control, how do you get direction and control? Is that usually in TikTok's particular instance, though, TikTok is majority owned by a foreign company, and they direct them what to do. So that's where you're getting this. That's why TikTok is under this particular provision.
I have news for you guys. This language is in the ITAR. It's replete not only in the ITAR, it's also replete in all of your FinCEN regulations. You want to talk about what the banks are doing and how they spy on us, and they go and shut down entities, foreign entities that have interests in terroristic activities overseas get shut down all the time here in the United States because they have the power and authority to do that. That was given to them by Congress. That agency is able to define what a foreign adversary is. That's what's happening in ITAR as well. That's what's going to happen in this case too. But the question is, who is making the rules? Who's making that determination? There isn't an agency structure behind this. This is a very broad, to your point.
The fact that Congress is even better, though. Congress actually passed a law. It wasn't just some random agency. They actually passed a law. It's amazing.
I'm not saying they did that. Good job, Congress. But
Danny, I want to ask you, though.
Appreciate the specificity. I agree with you, Viva. It would be great to have more specificity. How do you determine a foreign adversary? And how do you determine direction versus control?
However the hell they want, depending on who the target is.
So I agree. I think there is a way to strengthen the law. But do I think that the Supreme Court is going to toss this? Absolutely not. The Supreme Court rules in favor of really vague, obscene laws all the time in favor of the state. I really have a hard time seeing them saying, yeah, okay, we're going to side with the citizens, the very few citizens, by the way, who profit tremendously from the use of this algorithm.
But that's one thing I think, because some of the TikTokers are going to sue now, making a takings argument, right? They had this property and they're taking hundreds of millions of dollars.
They may have an argument.
That's a good argument.
So
they may have a good argument there.
The takings is going to be re-examined also this term.
I just want to. There's a whole lot that happened there, and I didn't want to be accused of cutting people off. So I just have a bunch of thoughts about things Danny has thrown out over the last 10 minutes.
Oh dear.
First and foremost, I'm just going to say that I agree with you principally that it's ridiculous that we hamstring ourselves with different yardsticks, and basically I don't like. Philosophically, I think it's illogical to say.
That is the mixed metaphor of the week, by the way.
Philosophically, I believe it is crazy that we say that when people come to our country, they're protected by the same Bill of Rights as American citizens. I think that the Bill of Rights was made by the people for the people and to protect the people, and that's not to protect people who are not American citizens. However, the Supreme Court has routinely disagreed with my philosophical perspective on this. So the law is they do get the same protections. You can't just say because in a different country they wouldn't treat us that way, that we shouldn't treat them that way here. Historically,
the same rights.
Historically, they have gotten the exact same protections as you and me. So that's why, even though I think that's stupid and it's illogical, historically, the Supreme Court has disagreed with me on this, with you and me on this particular perspective. I would agree with one thing, that the final thing that you said there, which I think is a very profound point, which is the Supreme Court's composition is we have 3 people on the left, 2.5 to 3 people on the right, and 3 to 3.5 people who are establishment and very strong believers in the institution and trusting the institution. I'm referring specifically to Justice Roberts, Barrett, and Kavanaugh. And I do think that you're correct that when they trust the establishment, and if the establishment has deemed that TikTok is some sort of unique threat, I do think there's a very strong chance that they will go along with, well, the same way they went along with the CDC and the establishment as far as whatever they were saying back in 2020 and 2021, so too I think there's a very good chance they'll go along with the establishment and saying, well, this is a crazy threat that we have to worry about. And that could be correct. It could be wrong. I personally don't know, but that they'll trust the establishment. And I do think that there's a good chance that this law will withstand scrutiny, and they'll find a way to make it withstand scrutiny along the lines that Danny and Uncivil are projecting.
I want to have fun with this and inject something else that should make the conversation even livelier. How does Section 230 come into play here?
Well, it doesn't. I mean, it's a separate law of a separate act. It's irrelevant. I mean, this is an act unto itself that was designed for this purpose. And it's also irrelevant when you're trying to figure out, for example, people have asked, wasn't it true that every app spies on you? It's like, well, maybe they do, but for like Facebook or Twitter or, you know, a lot of algorithms, those are owned by American companies.
Well, but here's the irony is we understand it's hypocritical. Okay. Everybody, all the apps spy on us. I think everybody will agree with that. And guess what? They also sell the damn data to China and anybody else who wants to buy it. All of our information is out there, freely available, shared all over the place, sold all over the place. Even the cops have a tendency to buy data from the open market that they can't just naturally collect themselves, like license plate readers.
That's
they
how
just
they
have a
caught the
company
serial
do
killer,
it.
right? They killed that serial killer that way.
Yeah,
Zodiac killer with the DNA.
Genetic.
You're talking about Golden State. But
Golden
Zodiac
State
is still.
Ted Cruz is still free.
Yes, Ted Cruz is still free.
Joe, you're on mute, by the way.
I do want to say,
Ron, what you going to say? You were saying something, Ron, and no one let you. We didn't let you speak.
Well, you know, I think I really want to make it clear. I really think everyone in this discussion, not in any way trying to be condescending, I just realized it might sound that way. You guys have really well thought out. Well, you guys have, each of you, everyone here has had an interesting perspective on this, except for Eric's stupid Section 230 suggestion.
Thank you.
But I think the fact that the court took this up suggested.
Well, I think they had to.
Yeah, they had to.
Well, the DC Circuit ruled.
Right. But they went to trial court.
They didn't take up
the
Texas
DC Circuit,
versus Pennsylvania.
The DC Circuit was the trial court.
Anything.
So it's a right of appeal because you had a 3-judge trial court, so you had a right of appeal.
Oh, that's right. Well, I think somehow just have a feeling that the Supreme Court wants to do something with this. That it's not just going to be that establishment rubber stamp that Joe's talking about. Because Joe, I mean, you're 100% right. There's this really strong tendency, and we saw it, of course, during the COVID cases. Well, governments, they only want to do good things for us, right?
Sure.
You know, they're here to protect us. It's stuff. Government is just things people do together. Okay. I think there is a little bit different mood afoot right now. And that doesn't necessarily mean it has to come out one way or the other. It is possible that the court could restrict its use in a certain way. You know, there is a requirement in I think it's a judicial, I guess it's a canon of statutory interpretation that they are required to find a way to uphold a statute if there is, okay, sort of like what Roberts did. Well, it's a tax, Obamacare.
Yeah.
They might uphold it, but they might limit it in a way that could end up being important for policy.
I think this goes back to Viva's point, right? Because that's what Viva's biggest fear is. As soon as you let the government start regulating what type of speech you get from where, then where does it stop? And so Viva's point about the fear of this ultimate government regulation starts with TikTok. It just it can move on.
It can be very arbitrary. It can be very arbitrary depending on who the powers in charge are. That they're going to basically be like, well, we think this is a threat, and we think, and
we've seen that
happen.
happen.
Administration.
Well, no,
but for my money, if you're dealing with foreign entities, you have the right to do that basically on a whim. That's the nature of international relationships. The United States, like every country, has the right to determine, and it can do it on a granular level.
But they already had the laws to do that if that were the rationale. That's my point. So why you more laws, less justice? What are they passing a TikTok ban for when they already have Espionage Act laws, foreign intelligence laws? They already had laws to deal with whatever the threat is from TikTok.
Something more specialized and more targeted to deal with specifically this problem, which actually is a nice change for Congress. They passed a very specific, very targeted law. That's nice.
That's why we need Chevron back. We need Chevron back.
And I think that this is only going to grow. This issue is going to grow, and we're going to see this, whether, like I said, whether it's from the CCP or Russia or you name it, this is going to become a bigger and bigger issue. And I'm really happy that Congress is practicing just the smallest amount of foresight here and willingness to kind of fall on their own swords. This isn't an easy vote to make. Do we want to ban TikTok? Did I just lose an entire generation of voters who are going to hate me forever because I got rid of their addiction? Right.
Of course, the whole thing might be moot because Trump is going to undo the whole thing. So
I hope not.
Well, you guys know the difference between TikTok US and TikTok China? Like they've done specials on it. It's like incredibly different. Like TikTok US is made to be specifically extremely addictive.
Rot the mind. It's made to rot the mind.
Yeah, but so is Facebook. So is Instagram.
No, but China is actually meant to enhance the mind.
Yeah,
they have robots and creativity.
But if you do TikTok China, you can only have a limited amount of time, 2 hours. You can only see certain stuff. And they did a test of TikTok users in the United States and TikTok users in China. And they asked the children who use TikTok, what do you want to be when you grow up? In China, it was astronaut, engineer, and the United States was influencer. So the government knows that this is a way to dumb down the population. That's the big fear.
Now, the one thing I can add to this particular conversation is how did the European Union handle the TikTok? And they banned it on government official devices, but not from the people.
But keep in mind that in Europe, 80% of the devices are government official devices.
Yeah.
They did the same thing here in Utah, and they still have a hard time enforcing it. I think that's going to be the larger issue: is how the hell do you enforce this?
They've already apparently given notice to Apple and Android to take it off the store.
They take it off the store. People are still going to access it.
VPN. Are they then going to regulate and ban VPNs because they're going to circumvent the legislation of the land?
That brings us to our sponsor.
No, but this is
I know.
I might be a Trojan horse to do just that, Viva.
Because on civil, it's a targeted law. It's not. It's another power grab from the government that's going to lead to more power grabs from the government to suppress their ideological adversaries by bastardizing the laws that they drafted opaquely. But speaking of jailing traitorous biatches, what do you think about Liz Cheney? Is she going to jail? Sorry, never mind.
I'm okay with them doing a power grab in this case. I'm sorry. When it comes to
because you agree with it, Danny, but that's the problem. That's the bad, unprincipled.
No. My principled position is that if you have a weapon that has been developed by our adversaries to be used as a weapon against the American people, and it is as obvious as it is, then yes, I'm okay with our government taking a power grab against a foreign entity. If this was an American-based entity and the laws applied against them and we could actually enforce it against them, I would take serious issue with this. If these were American citizens, this would be another discussion entirely. But these are foreign entities, foreign-owned, don't give a crap about them.
So Danny, hold on. If an American buys it tomorrow, and keeps it exactly like it is in every way, but it's just an American owner. They hate America. Whoever it is, they're an American citizen. They hate America.
I don't
and they're
care
like,
if they're
"Oh,
an
great,
American
let me."
citizen, and I will protect them, and I will protect their right to own their own company and run it.
If the argument is that this is a Chinese weapon, then what sense does it make that we still do business with China for 5G cell towers, chips, electronics technology? And so then where does it end?
All right,
we
should either, Viva. I don't think
but
that
hold on,
we should
and
be
I agree with you there.
purchasing anything from China right now. I think we need new trade partners. I hate the CCP.
But Viva, Congress hasn't legislated against those things.
No,
but
that's
asking a legislative question now.
But I'm asking. See, I'm not. I don't disagree with Danny on that. But I'm pointing out a flaw in your logic, Danny, is that TikTok is a weapon from China. There, we must ban it, and yet they're still making about 70% of the 5G cell towers that America relies on for intelligence. So
what about your iPhone,
Congress to manage them?
And we shouldn't be doing that either.
What about your iPhone? What about every laptop?
No,
I have the Samsung. I use to the extent that I can use American-based products from America. I do. The problem is that our Congress has sold out all of our rare mineral rights, all of our processing rights, all of the rights to the actual materials that we utilize in all of our own cell phone devices because it makes them money. They have profited. Each and every single congressperson has profited off of the tyrannical, evil organization that we call the CCP that is more evil than Hitler, the most evil organization ever on the face of this earth. I have a more principled position on this than anyone else. So trust me, you're not going to get me on this one. I have
but I'm just saying the argument that you're making before the Supreme Court would be, at least in my view, incongruent, because you're saying there's such a weapon, there's such a threat, we got to ban TikTok, but they're not also banning the other stuff. So there's such a threat that we ban TikTok, but do business for national security.
Because it's our ownership.
Yeah, you have
own
to.
It. We can control it. If it is owned by a U.S. citizen, we enforce the law against the U.S. citizen. You can't enforce a law against China unless you want to go to war with China. That's the issue right there, fundamentally. All international law is made up because it is all based on power politics. Can you actually enforce the law or not? That's it. And if you can't, then guess what? We get to relegate how we play with other people in the world. We don't have to play by their rules. We don't have to give them any credence. We don't need to succor them at all. They have no remedy. Fuck off.
Well,
I'm sorry. I'm so done with this nonsense of treating other nations. Ron, am I making you cry?
No, I'm pretending to be offended by your harsh language.
Oh, I apologize. I apologize. But
listen,
I'm just so
I said
dumb.
I was pretending.
Why aren't we? All right, so for the TikTok creators, they're going to sue, obviously, on takings. What do you guys think about their argument? We have millions of dollars. This was a product that we have.
Please define takings before you.
Right, so the government's going to come on and say, "Me take you long time," and that's what that's the response from the government.
So a taking is that if you have property. And I'm assuming TikTok and the millions of dollars that are made on TikTok will be considered property, intellectual property, or whatever. If the government takes that property through statute or whatever, then they have to compensate you with. They have to compensate you. It's just like taking your house or taking whatever property. So what I'm saying is that the TikTok creators, I'm assuming they were going to be making an argument that you've removed this platform that we were making money, our property, and now since you've taken that, we need to be compensated in some way. I don't think it's going to fly.
That's going nowhere.
But I think that's essentially the only argument the TikTok creators have.
You never had a property interest in it because TikTok could have taken it away at any time. There was never a property interest in your channel.
The Supreme Court. There's one. I mean, look, they're looking at K-law, which they have to because that's was an absolute train wreck, phenomenally bad decision. But there's one thing I think is very clear. The Supreme Court is not interested in expanding takings doctrine to regulatory action that it doesn't affect basically tangible property. If it does, it's like we're going to roll back the whole New Deal. It's just going to be
crazy.
It's not going to happen.
I'll just, well, anyhow, that's it. No, TikTok. I believe it is a weapon. I believe you should decouple from China formally, but I don't agree. This law, it has a Trojan horse in it, and I also think that banning TikTok is the decision of the parents with their children and the individual. Not, it's great. I mean, there will be no end to what they will.
David, what do you think? What do you think about the DJI ban, which is not that far apart from that?
What the hell are you talking about with the DJI ban?
Oh, you don't know
I was
about
just
that?
going to wait for someone else to know what he was talking about.
I mean, I know it's the drone made by a Chinese-made drone. Have they banned them?
There's a couple bills going in right now.
Sorry. Those are the ones that Schumer is putting out to. Well, son of a bitch, and my DJI Spark might become useless, although I haven't really used it.
No,
I'm gonna go use it. Let me go fishing.
It's a real deal.
Ban it.
No, it's a real thing. I mean, they're calling it DJI ban, but it's all Chinese drone manufacturers.
Yeah,
and coincidentally, we happen to be under a drone scare right now, which is helping drive some of this as well. So I'm just curious.
Well, first of all, I understand that. I had on. I was talking with Ian Carroll. All of you guys, you know who he is. He's awesome. And talking about
the bottom row. Probably don't like him as much. But anyway.
Oh, well. But by the way, while you're making the joke about the bottom row versus the upper row, like we can play an IQ test to like correlate what connects the 4 on the bottom and what correlates the 4 on the top. And for a second, I thought I knew what it was until Nick came back in. Now it's men with facial hair is the common denominator on the bottom row. Prior to Nick,
visible facial,
and Nick looks like a baby face. So I don't know when you shave, Nick, but you look not Nick, Nate. You look great. The DJ. So I had on Ian Carroll. He's the guy. He goes deep into rabbit holes and conspiracy theories and stuff. And he was talking about the collection of data from Pokemon Go during an episode of The Unusual Suspects. And when they then explained what they're doing with that. Oh, say it again, Eric. Sorry.
I covered that on Proven Conspiracies. I have a whole episode on.
Yeah. When you appreciate that, what they might be doing is like they would have military level intelligence of every private domain, every house, every apartment building. If they wanted to then fly a little bumblebee drone with a pinprick of poison to assassinate somebody, then I understood. Holy shit! There's a damn good reason why you'd want to regulate that and make sure it's not in the hands of enemies.
You know who paid for it, right?
CIA.
Yes. Just to point it out, it's us.
Well, but the thing is, I'm also as scared as I am of the Chinese government and the Russian government. I'm also equally scared of our own governments. Like, all right, great. So they have the ability to assassinate whoever they want and suppress whoever they want, but not, China doesn't have any influence. So, it's a big problem. I don't log into my drone when I fly it anymore. Because I don't want to relay that information, and I get restrictions. You can only fly over 30 meters or 30 meters if you are logged in with DJI and you have your email address and everything. But no, I think it's a big problem. I understand it. Make the shit locally, period. Like, there's no reason why we should be buying this from foreign countries. Make it locally. Good for the economy. Good for tech development. And I'll feel better buying it.
But it's bad for prices, though.
But that only lasts for so long.
You're talking about that same drone. Your same drone is going to cost like 2 or 3 times more if you make it here. So
first of all, I wouldn't have.
Why is that? Is that because they're using 7-year-olds to make it in China?
No, it's because of the minimum wage. It's because of the minimum wage.
It's minimum wage. But
okay, so we can get rid of that.
Hold on. There's 2 things here. I'm not that sympathetic.
It's down to engineers. There's more engineers in China than we know what to do with. We have given up a lot of manufacturing and don't flat out have the ability at this point. So we'd have to build up that infrastructure.
Say one thing. First of all, the price bump, whatever that might be, doesn't last forever. The market innovates. The second thing is when you're talking about items, like I'll say luxury items like drones, I'm less sympathetic to them costing more for those who want to get them. When you talk about essential items, it's a little different. But I'd rather pay more for an American product. I bought a Bronco made in Dearborn, Michigan, and I'm proud to drive it.
You would say that, but everybody who shops at Walmart is not saying that because all that cheap Chinese stuff. That's what they, It's
you guys, you can't beat slavery. You can't beat free, and that's what China runs on. I have news for you. It's straight. Yeah, no, Joe, you're absolutely right. It is straight slavery. We're not talking about, child labor or unfair labor laws or someone who's getting paid a penny a day. We're talking literal Uyghurs in concentration camps being forced to make these items. I'm guilty of it. I buy off Temu. Okay. I'm not going to sit there and say that I'm not a hypocrite. I'm principled, but I'm a hypocrite because I'm principled. Okay. I buy on Temu because it's $1 for the exact same thing that would cost me $3, $4, $5 here. And all I have to do is wait an hour.
What did you just say? That I'm a hypocrite because I'm principled? I think I love it because I understand what you say it again because I'm going to write that
David,
down.
I want to ask you about your Ford Bronco. Are you sure that you have the Ford Bronco that's made in Wayne, Michigan, and not the one that's made in Hermosillo, Mexico, or the one that's made in China? Because they do it all over.
No, it's the baby Bronco.
Not much longer.
Mine has the plate that says "Made in Dearborn, Michigan," made with pride in Dearborn, Michigan.
But the plate's made in China.
No, what I love is when you buy something that says designed in California. It's like, I don't give a shit where it was designed.
Yeah,
I
that's
want to know where it
cool.
was made.
But the problem is all of our raw materials that we use to manufacture is sold to China and manufactured in China as part of our trade negotiations and deals that we have with our foreign, not just adversaries, but allies as well. And so you have to untangle these agreements that we have been wrapped up in for decades. If you want to have any meaningful construction or use here, you also have to get rid of the EPA, because if you want to manufacture, you want to cleanse out some of these rare earth minerals, you want to prepare them for use in manufacturing, that's a dirty business. There's a reason why China is the #1 polluter in the world, because they can be, because they don't care how much toxicity they put into the environment to make your little cell phone. So these are the realities that we have to balance. Do
China
we
is us
smoke
50 or 60 years ago, Danny, if we're going to be fair. Because
Pardon?
we were happily polluting everything in the world 50,
Right.
60 years ago. China is just us 50, 60 years ago.
There's two
Right.
big
So
differences.
do we want to go back to that is the question, because we don't have the ability to undo the very, very toxic nature of some of these processes. It's just how it is. I would love if we did. I'm sure China would love it if they did, because their entire population is getting poisoned too, and they need babies. They need specifically female babies because of really bad policy decisions they've made. So they're hurting too. And the question is do we really want it back? So there's a lot to it. I'm saying it would be nice. It would be really nice if we could at least ban one new technology and prevent it from propagating here in America. At least one weapon, at least one product from China, I'm okay with.
All right. Well, to close out, let's go ahead and start things on it might be even more contentious level, but Die Hard. Christmas movie? Yes or no?
100%.
If you have to ask if it's a
100%.
Christmas movie, it's a Christmas movie. Nobody asks if Braveheart is a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
I
100%.
agree. Okay, so why is it a Christmas movie? I will say because it takes place during Christmas. There's a holiday party. Santa Claus is even referenced in Ho Ho Ho. And any other additions?
There's no better criteria. It takes place during Christmas, revolved around Christmas, or makes references to Christmas. People watch it at Christmas, and it's such a Christmas movie. Everybody thinks it's a gotcha to ask if it's a Christmas movie. Case closed.
And there's also the sound of hooves on the roof.
Now I have a gun. Ho ho ho! Come on, that's it. End of story.
Yeah, see,
was the night before Christmas, and all through the house not a creature was stirring, except for the assholes coming in the back in standard 2x2 cover formation.
It's
baby.
The best movie. It's the best action movie ever. I watched it with my kid. It's amazing, and it goes back to a time when racial harmony did not need to be forced and jammed down our throats. Can you imagine a terrorist organization with a German guy, a Serbian guy, a black guy? I mean, that is unity among terrorists. It was beautiful.
Reindeer Games is better.
I've never seen
that.
Oh,
Ben Affleck.
Not Ben Affleck. Come on.
I'm not. Bruce Willis is a million times better than Ben Affleck, but
like
I'm just
Reindeer
saying,
Games,
as a movie, it's a better movie.
Charlize Theron is in that one, right? Reindeer Games.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
It is. Go check out Reindeer. If you haven't seen it yet, Viva, check it out. It's
another good Christmas movie is Lethal Weapon, the original.
That one I think it might be a little dark to watch with a young person. I remember the scene when the beautiful lady was tied under the dock. And
did you know that was Alan Rickman's first movie?
Yes.
He knocked it out of the absolute park.
He didn't know how to work a gun.
Unbelievable.
He also was terrified of guns, apparently, and was very, very uncomfortable during making it.
Do you guys watch any non-Christmas films like traditionally? So like my family watches Top Gun. So that whenever I hear Christmas movie, I think Top Gun because that's what we watch every single year. So
Daddy, when we were kids, my parents forced us to watch Citizen Kane on New Year's. How do you think that goes with five kids?
That's criminal.
And then one year we watched because we used to do this. We watched any movie on Christmas Eve. We watched. It was one of those knockoff movies, not Scary Movie, but one of the teeny bopper knockoff movies where there was a scene when the guy who's losing his virginity to the girl, and as he climaxes, he like shoots her up onto the ceiling. And I forget what movie. Someone's gonna know. And we were watching this
Scary Movie.
Was it Scary Movie where he climaxes in black? The girl and we're watching it with these uppity friends of my parents who didn't come back for Christmas ever again.
Weird one to pull out, though.
Well, and you never know how what someone's threshold is for raunchy comedy that they'll tolerate.
No. Now over here, since 1964 or 5, at 3 p.m., the entire nation of Sweden sits down and watches Disney.
Any particular Disney?
Yeah, check it out. Google it. Sweden Disney on Christmas Eve. Every Christmas, 3 p.m.
Is there a particular Disney movie, or is it just anything?
No, it's snippets from old things like Santa's Workshop and Donald Duck in the Jungle, because that's Christmas, and Bambi, and not the bad parts of the Bambi, and then something from the new ones. Just half an hour of Disney.
Jungle Book? No.
No, this is
Jungle Book. They're doing the
It's Jungle Book. It's not Jungle Book. It's Jungle Book.
Guys, to end on a lighter note, is everybody following what's the guy's name? Dan Crenshaw's Meltdown on Twitter?
Oh my god!
Oh my god!
Okay.
Great.
So Eric, you gotta pull this. You gotta pull this up. It's the best thing.
What's up with Dan Crenshaw?
He's blown his lid.
Cat turd. He's fighting with Nick Sorter.
Nick Sorter. I mean, calling Nick Sorter a piece of shit. So hold on. Okay, this guy George Alexopoulos. If you don't know him, he makes
my god,
amazing,
I love George.
He's zoom in on it, Eric. Enhance the cartoon because it's so good. He says, "Wow, that's a lot of ice cream." No, it isn't. You lying piece of shit. I serve this country milking cows abroad, so you don't have to. And what are you doing? Watching Sesame Street like a coward. The real people with too much ice cream are incels like you.
Well, if you ever want to be amused, check out the appearance of Cenk Uygur and Dan Crenshaw on Piers Morgan Uncensored. If you want to see some nice toxic comments flying around.
Those of you who don't know what those of you who don't get that cartoon, what happened was that Nick Sorter reported that when that whole bill came out, which was a terrible, disastrous 1,500-page bill, which in part gave Congress a raise in addition to giving all sorts of funding for woke ideology, for censorship, and all sorts of terribleness that was thrown into a continuing resolution. So Nick Sorter reported that he has an inside source that says Dan Crenshaw is the one who was pushing for a raise for Congress. When Dan Crenshaw saw that, he went nuts, saying, "You effing incel, that's not true. I'm not even a yes on the whip vote. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. You're just throwing this out here." Cat Turd basically started saying, "Well, suddenly you started making a whole lot more money on the stock market than anyone else as soon as you got in there, and you've been complaining about money left and right." And he responded to Cat Turd by saying, "You anonymous piece of crap. I served this country, went to war while cowards like you stayed home, and you sit here trying to..." And he started going off. And factually, he was so wrong because everyone knows what Cat Turd's real name and face are. He was an Army vet. He was on Tucker Carlson. He's an Army vet, and like everything he was saying there was just insane, and it's just hilarious. Bring up the blow up that he's had.
This phone keeps buzzing.
I don't know.
That's my vibrator. Sorry about that. Hunley, bring up the tweet. This is Crenshaw's reply to Nick Sorter. And it's so wildly over the top. It's in the private chat.
Yeah, I got it. Hang on.
Yeah. So he says, DC source tells me that Dan Crenshaw is spearheading the effort to get a pay raise from Congress. Whatever. Yeah, or maybe you're a fucking lying piece of shit because I'm not even on the yes list for the whip team. Never have been. But hey, whatever gets you pathetic bottom feeders, your clickbait fucking incels. I mean, that is
it's a little over the top, Dan. It's a little over the top.
Some might call that roid rage, but I don't know if Crenshaw's accused to be on roids. It's almost hilarious. I mean, if it were parody, it would have been gold.
There you go. Well, that escalated
quickly. Noted?
Oh, say it again.
Has it been community noted?
Yes.
I really want to. I want to know.
Well, I'm on this. These aren't published, but I'm back to the community.
Oh, really, Hunley? How did you get that backdoor access?
Anyway, so if you guys want to see, these are notes that haven't been published yet, but Here we go.
Uh-oh, Hunley. They just
Here,
moved
much
Hunley.
higher than
They got him.
72%.
They got him. Congress got him.
You froze up there, Hunley.
What? Where?
Okay, no, you froze up for a second, but you're back.
Oh, okay. Crenshaw's net worth has ballooned since taking office from 60,000 to 1.45 million based on talks. Does
Mother
not support
effer.
continuing resolution. Anyway, it is.
Oh God.
It's been very useful to me be doing the community note thing because whatever you guys think about me, I don't like to put out bad information. So anytime I see tweets, it's handy to go look underneath and go, oh, okay, there's people are disputing this or there's other articles.
If you go back to that comic, it's so much. It's so
good.
So yeah, Dan,
Hey, you
Dan,
have
you might
more
want
ice
to tone
cream.
it down.
That guy has a lot of
A
ice
simple.
cream.
This is not true. Would have been fine, Dan.
But I mean, we know we touched a nerve, right? I mean, we know Dan's not our guy. Does anyone think Dan's their guy? Is Dan's anyone's
I
guy?
don't know.
Once upon a time, I liked him. Or at
Well,
least I
he
thought I
kind
did.
of I hate to say it's stolen valor in a weird way. It's real valor. He really was a SEAL, but apparently there's some controversy even there coming out. He might be a John McCain kind of a character where there are a lot of other veterans who do not like him. But no, when he came out, I mean, how can you not respect somebody who is a SEAL, lost an eye in battle? You naturally are cheering for them. Unfortunately, his policy hasn't been great. And yeah, Alex Stein, I think, might have been the start of that.
I love Alex Stein going after Dan Crenshaw.
God.
He fought back against Alex Stein too. There was a little Twitter exchange there as well.
You want to know the greatest way to make friends is to fight with Alex Stein, Nik Starow,
Oh my
Cat
God.
Turd. Cat Turd, I mean, you could find him offensive, but like Nik Starow is like he is as soft and delicate as a rose, as vanilla ice cream. And to call him a fucking incel, I mean, who uses these words other than idiot lefties? And I know that.
No, he's
Stein.
establishment.
Alex Stein, if you guys want some like real, I am really into like real life trolling. So if you want some good like comedy gold, just watch like 8 Alex Stein videos of him going to any like community town hall, you name it. It's golden. Also him harassing AOC made my life. And every time I hear AOC now, all I can think of is, I love your big Latina.
Yeah, well, she loved it too at the time. By the way, though, one uncomfortable thing.
And she's like, look how harassed I am.
Alex Stein has met his match, though. I don't know if you saw. He got into it with Milo Yiannopoulos, who's probably the king troll out there. And that one is really weird.
What's that
got to the point, well, Milo went after Loomer. Milo goes on things now and burns things down. He's been
doing that for 10 years.
Well, he's doing it especially lately. So like Loomer, he ran her campaign or worked on her campaign or whatever, went after her. He's gone after MTG. But he went on with Stein a couple of weeks back or whatever. The program is unlisted. I think I have it somewhere. And Stein literally unlisted everything, and now they're at a war. And that's
allegedly, by the way. I did not say that. That is what I have heard, and that is what posts suggest. But I am not saying that.
Allegedly, what? I missed what?
Oh, then it's not important. Then we'll just let it go. I just had to throw out a disclaimer.
Okay. I'm not taking any claim that Milo said as factual, and I'm not taking any, believe me, Milo goes wild. But it's been a great stream. I think a lot of people here are going to be doing Christmas Eve streams or streams coming up going into the holidays. And Danny, what do you have coming up?
I am picking up on the Courtney Clenny case. There was a hearing. So if you guys want to go and enjoy that, in honor of Jeff, he was the one who turned me on to the OnlyFans chick who murdered her boyfriend via stabbing. So that should be tons of fun. I'm also covering the downfall of our president. So that should be interesting as well. I think that there are some intriguing legal ideas that I hadn't thought about before with the Woodrow Wilson and FDR cases, where the entire White House is defrauding Congress and working to defraud the American people. How do you even operate the 25th? How do you even move forward with that if they're lying and deceiving everyone? So I think these are interesting topics, and I'll be talking about it on my show. So come check it out.
Kurt.
Yeah, next thing I'm going to be catching up on my channel, I'm going to be doing some of the Garth Brooks stuff because there's been things happening and I haven't had a chance to get to it. So I'm going to be going back a little ways with respect to the lawsuit that was against him from his hair and makeup person for the alleged maltreatment. I'm going to be going through some of those documents, trying to catch up on that. So that's what I got coming up immediately. And then, of course, on the 10th, we've got the Supreme Court arguments in the TikTok case, which should be very interesting and very revealing. It'll be interesting to see whether or not the Supreme Court kind of sticks with what the Court of Appeals did, which is probably the safe bet. The Court of Appeals assumed the First Amendment applied and assumed strict scrutiny applied and still felt that the restriction was warranted. So they might go that way, or they might pick a more aggressive path, as I've been suggesting, dealing with the fundamental right relating to import. But either way, should be exciting to see how it develops. So make sure to tune in my channel for all that fun stuff.
All right, Nate, the lawyer, what's happening?
Same old. They got a new super mayor case coming out. Super mayor thing coming out today. I'm doing this case. There's a guy who was sentenced to a life sentence in California. His sentence was commuted, and now he killed 3 more people and was going back to jail. So I'm going to cover it. So I'm going to cover that story. Yeah, but I feel bad because it's like and then I have some more public corruption stories. We got a new development. A guy in Texas now has been charged with 10 counts of election interference for pretending to be Trump supporter. So and now it's like the whole Democratic cabal in Texas seems to have been involved in this thing. So it's going to be like a whole bunch of crap to pay down here. So that's what I got coming up.
All right. Oh, I see it's a Rumble rant that came through. I apologize. About Die Hard. It is a story of a man trying to get to his family for Christmas and having to overcome great obstacles, relying on miracles to see him through.
That's very nice.
No, that's
and what is this? Palmy Reproductions? I can't see it. This is, I think, for David. Listen, you Canuck. A gun and Christmas light is all we need for Christmas in America. Okay, get a Festa Pole Froggy. I got family from Quebec, so I can talk crap. LOL.
Get a Froggy. First of all, frog is French. The derogatory word for French Canadian in Quebec is not frog. I will not say what it is, for I have to go back to Canada tomorrow, and I don't want to make enemies with my people. But look up what the slur for French Canadian is. It's not frog, people. That's for France. But on that note, what I've got coming up, I got to go back to Commie Canada tomorrow. So that should be cold communism for the rest of Christmas. And following the news, I have you guys all listened to Blagojevich's? I didn't listen to him on Tucker yet, but I'm still getting through him on Rogan. I gotta get Rod Blagojevich on for a podcast. His story is amazing, and you hear that guy talk, and he's got some insight. But in that, just following the news and whatever the interesting stories that I find interesting are, we'll be covering them, dissecting them, and making fun of everyone in Canadian politics except Maxime Bernier.
Cool. Hey, Nate, I forgot to ask you, is there anything happening in the new year?
Okay. Well,
there appears to be a miscommunication here.
He might not be listening. Never mind. Ron, what do you have coming up? Yeah,
nothing. I got nothing.
Nothing. Oh,
that's not true, Ron. We have our podcast coming up.
Well, you want to do one this year? Okay, but you got to tell me what day works for you, because Wednesday's Christmas, and
I'll send you a message. Let's do it.
Yeah, good. Yeah, because we had a break because we both had things that we had to do.
Yeah.
But now, you see, you got ahead of me, and now everybody knows. You guys know that the Danny and I stream together twice a month. I call it we call it the transcontinental live stream or law stream, and
just had to get the
we're getting ready for a great year.
It's part of the trans agenda. Hush, Eric. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. All you conspiracy theorists, you're welcome. Please join us. It's a lot of fun.
We'll keep you posted, guys. Thank you.
Nick, what do you have going on?
Well, I'm going to copy one of the greatest comedians out there, John Cleese, for the past 10 years, have had the show Last Time to See Me Before I Die. So starting after New Year's, I'm going to have pre-wakes, just in case.
Okay, that sounds like some Monty Python humor here.
That was an attempted humor, and I think it lost something in translation.
Yeah. I'm reiterating to what we began this show with.
Fair enough. Okay, well, folks, if you like this kind of thing, and by the way, if you follow me on X, I put this out, everything else out. I've been doing threads there lately. Wrote one on Norm Macdonald that has been very popular. Going full circle, even Ted Cruz shared it, which is odd, but
for a
his
serial
name did
killer
come with the conversation. I'm sorry, what, Ron?
For a serial killer, it's an unusual thing, you know. They don't
Eric, I'm surprised.
Killers can be funny.
You missed his retweet. He said, "How dare you mock Norm Macdonald, you bastard."
Oh,
you piece of shit incel. He went full Crenshaw on you. I'm joking.
Mother effer. You don't even know Ron McDonald.
I don't know. Anyway, folks, thank you so much. If you like this
Eric,
kind of
thanks
thing,
for putting it together week in and week out like some kind of lunatic. It's it's really, and everyone should see the new channel that Eric is doing. Really fascinating stuff.
Wow, thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, everyone, and see you next week.